Breaking news.
Sorry, under Rule 8B and Rule 8C.
Oh my God. You tards are going to make me cover this and it's going to be literally nothing. Okay. I already did all my emails.
We'll be handling the first appearance calendar today. At the conclusion of the hearing, for the first case, the court will take a recess and remind all those who are scheduled for the first appearance calendar to log back in 15 minutes after the court has taken a recess. As a general note, no electronic usage is allowed unless pre-approved. Any disruptions will be removed. To the jail, are we ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Calling case 251403576, State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. Could you state your name?
Tyler James Robinson.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Robinson. I'm Judge Graff. Mr. Scortis.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. You're probably already aware of my presence or why I'm here, but if not, I am not entering an appearance. I'm not counsel on this case. I'm working with the county to get counsel assigned, but we need you to allow for the appointment of counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Scortis. I want to go through the qualifications
Absolutely.
for indigency, but that is my intent, Mr. Scortis.
Very well.
And I thank you for being here. So, Mr. Robinson, you have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, the court can appoint an attorney to represent you. I have reviewed your declaration of financial.
Fumez ma pipe. Fumez ma pipe moi aussi.
Do you think the judge? A little bit? Yeah?
Status and find that you are indigent. I'm provisionally appointing a Rule 8 qualified attorney to represent you on your case, Mr. Robinson. Along with their filing of their appearance of counsel, the assigned attorneys must file declarations with the court that outline their qualifications under Rule 8 and Rule 8C, under Rule 8B and Rule 8C for counsel appointment in a case where death may be a sentencing option. I'm ordering that those declarations be filed prior to the next hearing date, which is set for September 29th at 10 a.m. Mr. Robinson, I also wish to inform you of your rights against self-incrimination. Anything that you say in court today could be used against you, and we want to protect your constitutional rights. Mr. Robinson, at this time, you will remain in custody without bail. Mr. Scortis, is there any other points that you wish to address?
No, thank you very much, Your Honor.
Turning to the state.
Yes, Your Honor. Chad Grunander for the state. I'm also joined, and they're listed as attendees, Ryan McBride, Lauren Hunt, David Sturgill, and Chris Ballard. We are the trial team on this case. I do have a few points I'd like to bring up with Your Honor. We have filed a pretrial protective order on behalf of Erica Kirk. We would ask the court to review that. It should be in your queue, Your Honor, and sign that.
Thank you. I have reviewed the pretrial protective order and will be issuing this pretrial protective order in favor of Erica Kirk. Is there any other business that we need to address today, counsel?
Just for the court's information, we did file just recently, within the last few minutes, a notice of intent to seek the death penalty that was filed by Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray. So that should be in the court's file. Lastly, I would just indicate to the court and to, at this point, Mr. Robinson, that we are prepared to collect all of the discovery in this matter and get that turned over to the defense as soon as possible. Rule 16 requires us to provide what we have relied on in charging the information and bringing these charges within 5 days once it's requested. So that'll be prepared to disseminate to the defense as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Grunander. Mr. Robinson.
What does it mean when they say he isn't cooperating with the police? It means he's not answering any questions. He's just pleading the fifth on everything. He's not helping with any of the questions or doing like a plea deal or anything like that, basically.
What I also want to do is you have the right to have the charges read that you stand charged of, and I wish to read those to you at this time. Thank you. Mr. Robinson, for count 1, aggravated murder, a capital felony in violation of Utah Code annotated 76-5-202, in that on September 10th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Charlie Kirk under the following circumstances. The defendant knowingly created a great risk of death to another individual other than Charlie Kirk and the defendant. Notice conviction of this offense may carry the death penalty or pursuant to Utah Code 76-3-207.7, a mandatory term of imprisonment for life without parole or an indeterminate term.
Dustin, it seems like in Utah, capital cases, there is a requirement for only attorneys of a certain caliber to be able to represent an indigent defendant, so they have to appoint an attorney on a specific list of qualified attorneys. Yeah, I think that on certain, is this a, oh, you know, well, this is a state case, so it must be a state rule, but I think most states have a rule like this because I think you can get cases tossed if your representation is bad or not qualified. And obviously on a capital case, I think the threshold for that is even higher or lower. Like if you've got a public defender who sucks shit and then you get the death sentence, like you have a higher chance of, I think, winning on an appeal or whatever on that matter. So I think they like to make sure that you have good qualified representation for that.
Of not less than 25
Pronounced indigent?
years, and that may be for life. Victim targeting enhancement in violation of Utah Code annotated 76-3-203.14 sub 2. Tyler James Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because of Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. Notice, if the trier of fact finds beyond a reasonable doubt that the victim targeting enhancement applies, the sentencing judge or the Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider the defendant's selection of the victim as an aggravating factor. Violent offense committed in the presence of a child aggravating factor. The sentencing judge or the Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider as an aggravating factor in their deliberations that the defendant committed a violent criminal offense in the presence of a child. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, a first-degree felony, in violation of Utah Code annotated 76-11-210 sub 2 and 3C, in that on September 10th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, discharged a firearm in the direction of Charlie Kirk, knowing or having reason to believe that Charlie Kirk may be endangered by the discharge of the firearm and that the act caused serious bodily injury to Charlie Kirk. Victim targeting enhancement in violation of Utah Code annotated 76-3-203.14 sub 2. Tyler James Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. Notice, if the trier of fact finds beyond a reasonable...
Ooh, I don't know if we'll get to this today, but apparently in the state of New York, they dropped the terrorism aspect for Luigi's killing of the healthcare CEO. I want to quote this. I'm quoting this hesitantly because I'm obviously not a criminal attorney and I don't practice law anywhere, let alone understand criminal law very well, or in New York City. But it looked like in New York City, oh, so somebody just said it's only second degree now. It looked like in New York City, in order to get it to first degree murder, there's a list of things that it needs for it to be considered first degree. And one of the things was terrorism. And that's why they included that terrorist aspect. But if they drop the terrorism part, then it automatically is kicked down to second degree murder. So yeah, so people in chat are saying, I was also reading that they also took off first degree murder to second degree. That terrorism charge was why it was considered first degree murder. New York murder statute, first degree. You needed something, and they used this section. The victim was killed in furtherance of an act of terrorism, as defined in paragraph B of subdivision 1 of section 490.05 of this chapter. This is the thing that they were running with for bumping this up to murder in the first degree. It's not just like with intent or any level of premeditation or whatever. I don't believe that's enough to make it first degree murder in the state of New York.
Doubt that the victim targeting enhancement applies, the sentencing judge or the Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider the defendant's selection of the victim as an aggravating factor. Violent offense committed in the
Why is that the case, you think? I don't know. That's New York.
And Parole shall consider the defendant's selection of the victim as an aggravating factor. Violent offense committed in the presence of a child, aggravating factor. The sentencing judge or the Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider an aggravating factor in their deliberations that the defendant committed a violent offense in the presence of a child. Count 3, obstruction of justice. A second-degree felony in violation of Utah Code annotated 76-8-306 sub 2, in that on September 10th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant Tyler James Robinson, with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or pursuant to any person regarding conduct that constitutes a criminal offense, conceal or remove the firearm used to shoot Charlie Kirk, and the conduct that constitutes an offense would be a capital felony or a first-degree felony. Count 4, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony in violation of Utah Code 76-8-306, sub 2, in that on or about September 11th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James...
Just curious, are we supporting Robinson? Start a GoFundMe? I have too much hate on me right now, so I don't think I would tweet it. But something that would be ripe for memery is tweeting that a hero of the Republic would donate to this guy's bail fund. Basically, what you would do is you would just quote Charlie Kirk. You would just quote Charlie Kirk directly on this.
Top Republicans reject any link between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. Of course you should reject any link. Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame?
Tonight, sources tell us the suspect, 42-year-old David DePape, carried zip ties and duct tape with him, an eerie parallel to the Capitol riot when some entered the building with zip ties. In another parallel, police have said the suspect yelled, "Where's Nancy?" when he entered the house.
What's up, everybody? Major retired Richard Ochetta here, and here goes Charlie, opening his mouth, and a wormhole comes out, just flinging nonsense at the viewers.
Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic nudists that are hemp jewelry makers breaking into somebody's home, or maybe not breaking into somebody's home? Why are we to blame for that exactly?
Here's the thing. First off, they have a lot of...
Okay, I don't need this guy's fucking commentary on this. I don't know if he includes the thing where he mentions the...
jewelry. I'm not buying that.
And why is he still in jail? Why has he not been bailed out?
42-year-old David DePompe. Election.
By the way, if some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco or the Bay Area wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. I bet his bail's like 30 or 40,000 bucks. Bail him out and then go ask him some questions.
Second, Charlie Kirk just asked viewers, describing them as
Like, I think if you quoted that about Charlie Kirk's killer, I think somebody would come after you. But like, that's an unhinged statement to make, right?
James Robinson with an intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of any person regarding conduct that constitutes a criminal offense, destroyed, concealed, or removed the clothing he wore during the shooting, and the conduct that constitutes an offense would be a capital felony or first-degree felony. Count 5, tampering with a witness, a third-degree felony in violation of Utah Code Annotated 76-8-508, in that on or about September 10th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, believed that an official proceeding or investigation was pending or about to be instituted or intended to prevent an official proceeding or investigation, and attempted to induce or otherwise cause his roommate to withhold testimony, information, a document, or an item to wit, directing his roommate to delete incriminating text messages.
He's just reading, this is just the arraignment, right? Is that...
Homicide in the physical presence of a child younger than 14 assigned to this case.
That's
For
it.
WebEx.
Thank you. That is a great question.
What did he
It will
say?
be via web.
For clarification, Your Honor, the hearing on the 29th, is that in person or WebEx?
Thank you. That is a great
Wow, racism in court?
question. It will be via WebEx.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
All right. I want to thank all parties for being here, and this concludes this hearing at this time. Court is in recess.
All right.
Man, you know what's like mega stressful? I wonder if the defense attorney for this case or for Luigi's case would strategize on when they want their trial to happen, like comparing the timings between them both. Because imagine if either case gets hung on a jury, on a single person deciding that, you know, they don't want to go with it. I wonder if that would influence the other case heavily, you know? Like, imagine Luigi doesn't get convicted, then does that dramatically change how the jury feels in Robinson's case about the Charlie Kirk killer, right? Like, that would be, I wonder what the thought is there. Hanged? I don't know what you would say for that. Worrying out, the mattress sale is on. Wait, the fuck is this about?
Peace to Charlie Kirk.
In what world would either of these two cases be hung, assuming they properly vet the jurors, though? I mean, if somebody ideologically really wants to, right? Like,
Rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. Hate him or love him. A life's a life at the end of the day. But on a more positive note,
our birthday sale is still on. Charlie couldn't be saved, but your spine still has a chance. With our Cloud9 Spine Saver coming from 8,000 to 6.5 with a full 15 years warranty.
Christ.
We went more often to the places where we knew people would disagree with us and talked to them. Treated that disagreement as the beginning of a conversation rather than the end of one. I've published a lot of pieces over the years. I'm not sure I've published any with as polarizing reaction as that one. A lot of people appreciated it, particularly on the right. They felt it saw their friend and their ally more the way they saw him. And there were many people closer to my own politics who were truly infuriated by it. Privately and publicly, they offered the worst things Kirk has said and done, starting a watch list of leftist professors, busing people to protests that led to the January 6th insurrection, telling his political foes that they should be deported, saying the Democratic Party hates this country, saying the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. I had friends say to me, look, we can oppose political violence without whitewashing this guy. I spent some time thinking about that over the weekend. Also just spent some time thinking, trying to work through how I'm feeling. And my reaction, honestly, is it is too little to just say we oppose political violence. in ways that surprised me given what I thought of Kirk's project. I was and am grieving for Kirk himself. Not because I knew him, I didn't. Not because he was a saint, he wasn't. Not because I agreed with him, no. Most of what he poured himself to trying to achieve, I pour myself into trying to prevent. But I find myself grieving for him because I recognize some commonality with him. He was murdered for participating in our politics. Somewhere beyond how much divided us, there was something that bonded us too. Some effort to change this country in ways that we think are good. I believe this so strongly that we have to be able to see that the bullet that tore into him was an act of violence against us all. I actually believe that. I don't know how to express this thought exactly. The nature of our politics right now, the truth of it, is that it is ferocious.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at this. I'm not laughing at this. I'm so sorry. Sorry. I just had a random thought. My bad. I'm sorry.
That our visions of what is
I'm not
good,
laughing at it.
our visions just of what is
I'm not laughing
decent
at it.
have diverged.
Fuck. I'm sorry. Okay.
This day, the nature of our politics right now, the truth of it, is that it is ferocious. That our visions of what is good, our visions just of what is decent, have diverged. The stakes of our politics right now are frightening to me. The consequences for people are very real. We see each other as threats, and to some degree, we are right. And it is somehow also true, it is true at the same time, that we will be immeasurably worse off if that is all we are to each other. We are going to have to live here with each other. There will be no fever that breaks. There will be no permanent victory that routs or quiets those who disagree with us. I've watched many on both sides entertain.
I don't know what this will be like, this conversation, considering it was recorded before Kirk was killed, but maybe Ezra will correct course on it, that he's wrong. I don't believe that he's correct here when he's saying there will be no victory, there will be no whatever. Like, the other side is aiming for that. You have a Republican administration with a Republican attorney general taking direct orders from the president of the United States saying that they're going to try to go after people for hate speech, period. Right? They are trying to win. We can't sit here and keep pretending that one side's not trying to actually have a total victory on this.
There will be no permanent victory that routs or quiets those who disagree with us. I've watched many on both sides entertain this illusion that there would be, either through the power of social shame and cultural pressure, or the force the state can bring to bear on those it seeks to silence. It won't work. It can't work. It would not be better if it did. That would not be a free country. Much of what I would describe as Kirk's worst moments were now just standard fare MAGA republicanism. Yep. And the leader of MAGA republicanism is the president of the United States. He is in the White House, having won about half the country's votes in the last election. We are going to have to live here with each other, believing what we believe, disagreeing in the ways we disagree. To recognize that does not mean we downpedal those disagreements. It does not mean we are not appalled or afraid of what our neighbors say and want. But I think it means that we do more than that too. I think we also have to be looking for what we can recognize in each other. And yeah, in some moments, I think that might mean overlooking what we can't recognize in each other. I worry about how hard social media makes that now. It's not just that it flattens us down to single moments, but that it parcels out different flattened moments to different audiences. We are shattered inside the algorithm, and the shards of us sent flying out into the world. Instead of being complex to each other, we become incomprehensible, almost unimaginable to each other. But it is our choice to see each other through these algorithms darkly. We can choose otherwise. I thought Spencer Cox, the Republican governor of Utah, has been a remarkable leader over the last week. And what he said here has resonated with me.
We can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us. We get to make decisions. We have our agency.
That does not just go for those of us on the left. I've heard from many on the right struggling with the idea that Kirk's assassination somehow reveals the impossibility, the futility of normal politics. He tried to do it by dialogue, they say, and look what happened to him. What marks those who choose political violence is not their politics. It's their decision to choose violence. That they make that decision, for whatever reason, does not justify you making that decision or me making that decision for any reason. We cannot give the lost or the mad a veto over the agreements and conduct that safeguard our society. That gives lone gunmen all the power, and it leaves us with nothing. I don't know what happened inside the mind of Kirk's shooter. I've tried to imagine being his parents, being so excited for the path he was on just a few years ago. I don't think the question is what politically radicalized a man who shot Kirk. I know many political radicals. They are some of the best people I know. I think the question is what broke in him. This was not the act of someone thinking clearly, but we still have to think clearly. When Nancy Pelosi's husband was assaulted, when Minnesota had to grieve the assassination of some of its leaders, that did not render normal politics obsolete. It made normal politics all the more essential and beautiful It was a reminder of the horror that lies on the other shore. All I can say for me, in the work I do, is that I want to create a space that takes our disagreements seriously, that takes the stakes of them seriously, the consequences for people seriously, but does so without deepening our divisions irreparably. We are going to have to live here with each other. We are going to have to be friends and foes at the same time. A few days before Kirk's murder, I taped an episode with Ben Shapiro. Shapiro is well to my right, a person with whom I have many disagreements, and also a person with whom I've had good conversations over the years. And this one was no different. It was about his new book, Lions and Scavengers, and talking to him about it surprised me. You learn things talking to people that you don't expect. So I've left this conversation as it was. It's about his book, about the political moment before Kirk's murder. I wanted it to live as it was because talking to each other about our disagreements isn't only something we should do in grief or in horror. It's just something we should be doing. Ben Shapiro, welcome to the
Oh boy. Michael Knowles called you out. Yeah, I'm used to the cuck videos. It's just going to be a whole bunch of the left is violent and the right, and we're not. What?
One side celebrates the murder of the other side, and it doesn't go in the opposite direction.
Like, this is a lie. You're lying. You're lying. We've seen lies. I've quote tweeted at other people who've deleted their tweets now, sitting senators, right, who lie about this. This is just a lie.
Stephen Bonnell, who had this to say after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Shout out the crime statistics?
No, not exactly.
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care. I'm playing video games. Okay, I'm done today. I don't give. God, it's gonna be so gay if I get killed in the next 2 months. I'm doing. Well, out here, please don't anybody make any actual, the most weak bullshit speeches on my side. God, if it happens, holy shit, I'm gonna make a death note before I go out to go live and not. God, it's so optics.
Hard to make sense of what he's saying. The first part is clear enough, though. He says conservatives need to fear for their life.
Why not like find the original video? It's hard to know what he's saying. You know that you could like do 2 seconds of research, right? Instead of like tripping over yourself to sit on the chair that I'm sure there's literally a 12-inch Trump dildo fucking tape to. You could like actually go find the video, right? Isn't that like your fucking job? Isn't that why you guys get paid so much money by Israel and AIPAC and whatever else the Daily Wire is funded by, according to Candace Owens, is to like do journalism? You could find it, you know, but that's okay. Nah, let's not get in the way of a good rage bait, of a good bait sesh.
Lives when they go out to go to events. You need to make them fear for their lives. You need to make them think you're going to murder them. So, look, he obviously...
That is one reading of it. Right after I said, I'm worried about getting killed, going out to events that you don't even fucking do. You don't even have anything on the line here. Fuck you. This guy is a fucking demon. A demon. Well, hold on. He might call for his side to tone down the political violence rhetoric, actually, in the next 5 minutes. So I'll reserve that.
Should be prosecuted. That is not protected speech. That's an incitement to violence. Clear as day. Steve, make them think you're going to murder them. So, look, he obviously should be prosecuted. That is not protected speech. That's an incitement to violence. Clear as day. Stephen Bonnell should be prosecuted. He should spend a long time in prison for that.
So, that's not political violence. There's something called the Brandenburg test. I don't know if you're another one of these fucking lawyers, okay? Clearly doesn't rise to the level of inciting somebody to direct violence. There was no direct call for violence at all. I didn't call for violence at all. But that might be your interpretation of it, but I absolutely didn't, number one. And if you listen to the full clip, it's obvious that I'm not calling for violence. And number two, there is no, like, it has to be close in, like, time and space and, like, reasonable that that's going to happen. Like, yeah. So, no, you're fucking retarded. But virtue, don't let me get in the way of a good virtue signal, okay?
No question. But
no question.
More broadly, these people should not be permitted in public. They should not be permitted in clubs. They should be fired from their workplaces if they say things like this.
Shouldn't be permitted in public. Wait, what do you mean by that? Are you calling for violence? Is he calling for violence right now? Michael Knowles is calling for people to be...
They should be ostracized from all of polite society. Not so that we can shrink the acceptable discourse. It's quite the opposite. What he is saying is, you need to threaten to murder conservatives so that they shut their mouths so that we don't have to deal with their open marketplace of ideas.
That's not at all. Why not listen to the video that I say? I'll say it again. There should be no political violence in this country. Your leader won't call for no violence, including you, because you guys are all cucks, because you guys love it, because you have the military that you're sending in other states, because you have a president who's willing to do whatever it takes to enforce with an iron fist his will, like quite literally, right? So of course you guys love this. You love these opportunities. You love these moments. You love watching your own get shot, or you love watching leftists get shot, because the violence is all like fucking rage bait porn to you guys. That's why you guys have your own headcanon about Charlie Kirk's children being at the event when they weren't even fucking there. You guys are literally making up headcanon to masturbate over this. It's insanity. It's insanity.
What he is saying is, you need to threaten to murder conservatives so that they shut their mouths so that we don't have to deal with their open marketplace of ideas. What he is articulating is, as Chesterton calls it, the thought that stops thought. That is a thought that urgently must be stopped. Go to helixsleep.com/Knowles. I love my Helix mattress, mattresses, I should say, because I'm such a magnanimous father that I've even gotten Helix for my kids. What makes Helix different is they don't sell you just a random mattress.
True! Plug those beds right in between. Oh my God, dude.
Match you with the perfect mattress for your body and sleep.
Destiny, why do you say Ezra made the video before the killing? He did the interview with Ben Shapiro before the killing. He made the intro section obviously after, but
So whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, somewhere in between, they've got you covered. All you've got to do is take their sleep quiz and find your ideal match. When you find the right match, you will wonder how you ever slept on anything else. For those of you who sleep hot, the temperature regulation is a total game changer. I love Helix. I got my Helix mattress, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. It's really wonderful. My kids absolutely love theirs, and it'll help you sleep. It'll help you sleep. Right now is the perfect time to upgrade your sleep. Helix has a fantastic extended Labor Day sale. Go to helixsleep.com/Knowles. Get 25% off site-wide. helixsleep.com/Knowles for 25% off site-wide. Enter the show name at checkout so they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/Knowles. In order to have the goods and the kind of society that people claim that they want. He's not the only one. There's another prominent left-wing streamer, Hassan Piker. Here's an example just from last year. Tom Cotton posted something on Twitter. Hassan Piker
don't group me with this fucking guy. You guys are wild.
Responds with a diagram of how to make the homemade gun that killed Shinzo Abe in Japan, Prime Minister of Japan. An obvious threat, a call to action to murder a sitting Republican senator. He should be prosecuted. Hassan Piker should be prosecuted. The government needs to come in and bring the force of actual government authority down and punish him for breaking the law. If the government does not do that, you'll get more of this. You'll get more threats against conservatives. You will very likely get.
I wonder if they genuinely don't understand they're increasing the risk of themselves getting killed by fanning the flames, or if they accept the risk and want to escalate to keep... No. What you're asking right now is exactly the statement that I made that he's quoting. They don't feel like there's any actual real danger. They don't feel it at all. That's why this is all like memes and jokes and games to them when they watch people get killed. Nobody has that feeling. It's just politics. It's just speech. It's just YouTube videos. It's just whatever. They don't have that. That's my point. Because if you actually felt afraid in these circumstances, if you actually felt like there was an increased risk of getting killed or that political violence could like come to you or your family, then your statement would be, hey, I think that all of us need to kind of like calm the fuck down, right? That would be such an obvious statement to make.
If the government does not do that, you'll get more of this. You'll get more threats against conservatives. You will very likely get more injuries and murders of conservatives. You will shrink the vaunted marketplace of ideas. You will undermine of how to make the homemade gun that killed Shinzo Abe in Japan, Prime Minister of Japan. An obvious threat, a call to action to murder a sitting Republican senator. He should be prosecuted. Hassan Piker should be prosecuted. The government needs to come in and bring the force of actual government authority down and punish him for breaking the law. If the government does not do that, you'll get more of this. You'll get more threats against conservatives. You will very likely get more injuries and murders of conservatives. You will shrink the vaunted marketplace of ideas. You will undermine all of society.
That's all. Those are the only people getting killed, are conservatives? Really? Okay.
Furthermore, any organization that hosts that person should be vigorously investigated, should be shunned from polite society. If it receives any federal funding, that funding should be cut off. These people need to be ostracized. Their behavior is cancerous to society. And we've been kind of nice and squishy about it in the past, and we've been just giving them the grace of, well, just one more chance. They can't really believe what they're saying. They don't really mean it. They don't. Enough. We've had enough. I've had enough. There's a study that just came out from YouGov. Liberals are 8 times as likely as conservatives to celebrate the death of their opponents. This just came out.
Notice how we're quoting the study of the who's more likely to whatever, especially, was this the thing that was taken right after Charlie Kirk died and is like gauging people's opinions on it? Like, bro, are you serious? Of course they're more likely to celebrate because you guys don't consider other people that died to right-wing conservatives as even being killed by people that died from right-wing conservatives. How many people were memeing on George Floyd's death? The entire side was doing it. All of you guys were doing this shit. Also, I like how we can't even point to that government one now because I think they...
As someone...
Oh, Jesus. I think they fucking took it down off the .gov website. I think they removed it because the study showed that most of the violence was coming from the right wing. Oh, this. DOJ deletes study showing domestic terrorists are most often right wing. Most of the politically motivated, ideologically motivated violence in the United States, like that has an ideological basis, like 76% of it is right wing. But the DOJ removed that from their website now. Thank God. So now we can just go to polling data on people about how they feel about a thing. Good one, dipshit.
There's a study that just came out from YouGov. Liberals are 8 times as likely as conservatives to celebrate the death of their opponents. This just came out. This came out after the assassination of Charlie. 24% of respondents who describe themselves as very liberal said it is always or usually acceptable to be happy about the death of a political figure they oppose. Only 3% of those who describe themselves as very conservative answered that way. A conservative reads those numbers, and we're ashamed. We're ashamed that 3% of people who are very conservative.
Oh my God. Give me a fucking break. The virtue signal. It's so gross. Ghoulish is the only way to describe these people.
Would say, well, sometimes I'm happy when my opponents die. We're ashamed of that fact. 24% of very liberal respondents. 8 times the number. That is extremely antisocial behavior. That needs to be discouraged with every lawful means at our disposal. You cannot have a society that way. That isn't part of the free marketplace of ideas. That isn't part of the open-minded ethos of our modern society. I guess it is part of the open-minded ethos of our modern society. This is what our modern society gets you. Can't tolerate it. If you like that clip, you should subscribe to the Michael Knowles podcast.
Horrific. It's
That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that. But Sean, you know, that's you. You have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that.
Wait, it done what? Hold on, I'm sorry.
That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit. We can prosecute you for that. I have
we can or can't prosecute you for that. Did she misspeak?
Discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie, go in and print, they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters.
Wait, when she says businesses cannot discriminate, I thought she was saying that they should be allowed to print whatever they want. Wait, is she saying that, like, I'm sorry, this is just so outlandish. Is she saying that if you wanted to go in and print off something at Office Depot that says, like, fuck Charlie Kirk, she's saying the DOJ will investigate businesses that allow people to print stuff off like that? Wait, what?
Speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that. But Sean, you know.
Oh, wait, if they want to, that a business has to allow you to print stuff. Oh, first of all, I don't know if this is a civil rights issue at all, number one. But number two, are there actually businesses that are preventing people from printing that stuff off? But what part of the legality is this? I thought, didn't we fight in the Constitution for the gay cake stuff or whatever, for that guy not to have to bake cakes for people that are, that have gay weddings? God, this was the cringiest. You've no idea what you've created. Bro, what are you doing? What? What? Okay. What? Oh God, don't rage bait me on this guy right now. I don't even want to think about this fucking degenerate loser fuck right now.
Targeting Pestany now? Oh yeah, I saw that as well. Isn't that interesting? That Sex Pestany, who has said unlimited violence, has threatened me with death threats, is now getting a taste of his own medicine.
Do you think this is the first time, lil bro, that I've had people on the conservative side fight with me?
After utilizing right-wing groups and right-wing content creators for years and years to actively...
What?
...try to get me deplatformed, he is now getting shafted by the very same right-wing forces that he has expertly used.
Why is it so retarded out here? Oh my God. Bro, people swatted me after the fucking Trump firefighter shit. I don't even know if this fucking retard talks about Donald Trump. I wonder if he's just jealous of the attention that I'm getting right now, because he spends all of his fucking time attacking Democrats. This cowardly little fuck can't say fuck all to conservatives except making an edgy joke every now and then the rest of it is just obsessions with Israel and Democrats.
That he has expertly used to his advantage to try and unsuccessfully deplatform me. Yeah. His community worked with fascists all the fucking time. He has called for my death personally. And also he has engaged in incredibly violent language and continues to do so.
Okay, Hassan Piker.
Okay? And now the chickens are coming home to roost for him.
Yeah, dude. Like, it doesn't, it's like, this is like the all roads lead to Rome. Like, if you, if I'm not fighting with the right wing, it's because I agree with them. If I am fighting with them, they're turning against me. Like, what? What the fuck is wrong with Cenk? Oh my god. Ah, fuck. I don't care. I'll roll. Hold on. Yeah, look at those chat reactions. Just make sure your fan base.
Will this cause his community to reconsider these allegiances? Probably not.
Like, it's such a fan fiction. It's so crazy how much, like, Clancy and Twitch defends their little golden child who only exists on a throne that I carved out for him because he would have killed himself ever trying to climb on this platform on his own before, when it was hostile to politics and then hostile to liberals. He would have never existed on this place. The fact that he is deluding himself, he's not deluding himself also. I gotta stop saying that, sorry. He's just lying to his audience to try to create this weird narrative that I'm some like crazy conservative aligned person. I'm not. Every single time Auk posts a tweet about me that has to do with me criticizing Asmongold or anything else, it's all filled with homophobia, well, basically all the same shit that Hassan uses against me, I guess. And like random shit. Like, Jesus, he's so cringe. Oh my fucking god, this looks agonizing. I hope this is a helpful conversation that comes closer to bringing the country together. What we all do next might define this era. I'm hoping we choose the right path. Megyn Kelly. Scott Adams. This guy is like the king. Trump hasn't mind-rotted anyone else as hard as this Scott Adams dude. This is one of the most mind-rotted people. Cenk Uyghur, I don't even know who, is this father? Fr. Josiah Trenham? I don't know who this guy is. Probably somebody else similarly fucking retarded. Holy shit.
The show? Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So let's go into the book. You have a theory of two groups here, lions and scavengers. What's a lion? What's a scavenger?
The basic idea is that there are parts of us, or you can say cultures, groups, depending on how you're characterizing it, who are more apt to build, who believe that there is an active duty in the world to make the world better, to build social fabric, to defend a civilization that is worthwhile, to innovate, to protect things that are good. And then there are people who are basically rooted in envy and are seeking to tear down all of those things. It's not necessarily that they have the replacement for those things, it's that they have identified a grievance, and then that grievance is directed externally at structures that need to be torn down. It is based on groups, sort of, but I do make the argument that it's actually quite personal. There's an instinct within all of us that is the instinct of a lion and the instinct of a scavenger as well. And the reason that I say that it's sort of internal is one of the things I should really try hard to do in the book is not use the terms right and left. I really try to avoid that binary, because I really do think that this is something that every single individual has to deal with. The idea that you get up in the morning and you decide whether the problems in your life are chiefly solvable by you or require action by you, or whether you're going to direct your ire and anger and feelings of unfairness at the society around you and the structures of the society around you. And this isn't to make the claim that all structures are fair or that all institutions are worthy of upholding, but the question of whether you're building or whether you're tearing down is really, I think, the basic question.
So I didn't...
All right, one more quick meme. What the fuck is this?
I met Charlie for the first time in July of 2001. I went on his podcast, and I think we approached each other with a lot of trepidation at that time, but by the end of the podcast, we were soulmates, we were spiritual brothers, and we were friends. And over the next couple of years, our friendship blossomed. He ended up being the primary architect of my unification with President Trump, which
Says he met Charlie Kirk in July of 2001 and they quickly became soulmates when he was 8 years old based. Okay.
Take the book so much as about the fight inside the individual. Maybe it's there. I didn't read it as much. What I did take it, though, is as trying to create a new cleavage. Because as I say, you don't really use the terms left and right. And actually throughout the book, you're not that clear on who it is you're talking about. So tell me, about creating the new cleavage, right? This isn't just left and right. You're not talking about rich and poor. You're not talking about successful, unsuccessful. What's the framework doing for you?
I mean, what the framework is doing for me is trying to suss out why it seems that there is a coalition of people who are so angry at the institutions of Western civilization that they are agglomerating and putting together sort of a coalition that has a bunch of mutually exclusive goals and yet will march together with the same banners. And what really let off the book is what happens in the introduction. Right after October 7th, I was slated to debate at the University of Oxford, and I went into London. My security team told me it was actually too dangerous for me to be in London proper. I had to stay about an hour and a half outside of London in a beautiful sort of estate that is now turned into a hotel for safety reasons. And it was that weekend that there was a gigantic protest, what I would characterize controversially as a pro-Hamas protest.
His security team said he couldn't stay in any part of London? I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I don't believe that for a microsecond. No shot.
London proper. I had to stay about an hour and a half outside of London in a beautiful sort of estate that is now turned into a hotel for safety reasons. And it was that weekend that there was a gigantic protest, what I would characterize controversially as a pro-Hamas protest in the middle of London. And the groups that were protesting were people who ranged from very far left on social issues, who would certainly not agree on social issues, with people who were standing for Hamas, people who were fans of Hamas, people who were just opponents of capitalism. And it occurred to me, why are all these people marching together? What do they have in common? And they're writers who have termed this the omnicause, but I kind of wanted to get to the root of why all of these people who, if you got them in a room and had them argue about gay marriage, would not agree. Or if you got them in a room and had them argue about markets, would have a wide variety of opinions. But what is getting them all together? What is the thing they're all opposing? And you see that sort of conglomeration forming on college campuses, and I think there are deep roots to it. And the sort of rage that was so clearly effervescent in the streets, I think that does have deep roots.
So you described that as very personal. One of the things I thought was interesting about the book is that it seems to me to be tracking a change in right-wing thought over the past decade. I don't think the argument we're having anymore is the argument we were having when it was Barack Obama and Paul Ryan, which is more an argument about healthcare and taxes. And, I remember how many years I spent debating the Grover Norquist anti-tax pledge. It seems very quaint. Now we seem to be having an argument about a more base layer of civilization, right? So how do you think the argument, at least on the right, has changed? The sense of threat has changed.
Well, I mean, I do think that there's a very open debate now inside the right that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. And historically, conservatism was kind of rooted in the G.K. Chesterton fence principle, right? The idea that the difference between a conservative and a non-conservative is that a non-conservative walks across a field, sees a fence, doesn't know why the fence is there, immediately uproots the fence. The conservative sees the fence and says, I don't know why that fence is there. I'm going to go figure out why the fence was put there in the first place before I uproot the fence. In other words, before you tear down an institution, before you rip away something that has a historic basis, try to figure out why it's there, because it might be there for a pretty good reason. And I think that on the right, non-conservatives, that a non-conservative walk fence principle, right? The idea that the difference between a conservative and a non-conservative is that a non-conservative walks across a field, sees a fence, doesn't know why the fence is there, immediately uproots the fence. The conservative sees the fence and says, I don't know why that fence is there. I'm going to go figure out why the fence was put there in the first place before I uproot the fence. In other words, before you tear down an...
Okay. I feel like that's phrased a little bit biased in the conservative direction, but sure. I feel like the equal phrasing is like, a liberal walks into a field, he sees a fence, there's no apparent purpose for the fence being there, so he removes it so it's not in the way. The conservative goes into a field, sees a fence, there's no apparent purpose for the fence to be there, so he investigates to try to figure out why the fence post is there or whatever. He's close enough. I'm being very pedantic right now.
Institution, before you rip away something that has a historic basis, try to figure out why it's there, because it might be there for a pretty good reason. And I think that on the right, there's such a rage that has arisen, at least on part of the right, that the tendency is to just rip things out by their roots rather than trying to correct or even determining whether the thing can be corrected.
The right isn't conservative anymore. It's counter-revolutionary.
It's anti-left. Or, I mean, I think that this is, I think the left.
It's not just anti-left. It's anti-institutional. It's anti-government. It's anti-constitution. Constitution. It's not just anti-left. Or it's anti. It is. But it's like, it's anti the left that they're showing you, which is not real. That's the issue, right? Because the Conservative Party would consider itself, quote unquote, anti-left. But then when you ask them, well, who is the left? Well, the left is 85% of Democrats who want to teach kids about gay sex in middle school libraries and also force trans stuff down the throats of our pets and children and want to trans our animals and trans our 12-year-old athlete. Like, that's the left that they're opposed to. That left doesn't exist.
Left is anti-right and the right is anti-left. And I think that is, broadly speaking, a problem, right? I grew up as a sort of traditional.
That seems wrong about the left to me.
That they're anti-right?
I don't think that what motivates Bernie Sanders is that he's anti-right. You don't like Bernie Sanders?
Well, Bernie Sanders is not the mainstream left guy, though, right? I mean, he got a lot of support for his election thing, but still kind of like outer perimeter, I feel, of the party. But
talk about that at some point here, the way you talk about it in the book.
I despise Bernie Sanders, yeah.
Fair enough. Your politics are your politics. But Bernie Sanders is profoundly motivated by a desire to pass Medicare for all.
I think that's right,
he is not motivated in the way that, say, Tucker Carlson or some figures I see on the right are motivated by a sort of like a reaction. He's had the same politics
but if we're speaking
for decades and decades and decades.
But you're speaking of one particular figure. I could name figures on the right who I think are motivated much more
If
ideologically.
you're asking who represents the left in America,
well,
that would probably be the person.
I mean, I
come
think
up
there's
with.
a case that Zoran Mamdani represents the left in America increasingly.
I'd also say Zoran.
Like, is this the conversation that, well, fuck, but Ezra brought up Bernie Sanders, and I don't know if he should have, maybe. But now Mamdani is going to be the, oh my God, bro. The New York City mayor is representative of the average aggregate opinion of all Democrats in the United States of America. Really?
In particular figure, I could name figures on the right who I think are motivated much more ideologically.
If you're asking who represents the left in America,
well,
that would probably be the person.
I mean, I
come
think
up
there's
with.
a case that Zoran Mamdani represents the left in America increasingly.
I would also say Zoran Mamdani is motivated by a desire to create free buses and rent freezes.
I don't think that's right.
Okay, so but let's stay on the right for a second. The counter-revolutionary side of it. What's the difference between being a conservative and a counter-revolutionary?
Well, I mean, I think that being a conservative is rooted in basic principles: private property, rule of law, traditional virtue, localism, subsidiarity, balance of power among the branches of the government. Right? These were all the things that I grew up with as a conservative. And
like, that's great, bro, but none of this has anything to do with the modern conservative party at all. It's not even remotely related at all. Like, it's nothing to do. No one.
And I think that, obviously President Trump is post-ideological, that is for sure. And what that means is that the right has become sort of a repository for anti-left feeling and is now a big tent. And the problem with the big tent is you let in a lot of clowns. And so, yeah, obviously.
The problem is not that they've let in a lot of clowns. You are led by clowns. Donald Trump is the clown.
There are tendencies on the right. I don't think it's the overwhelming majority of the right, but I think it is a growing tendency on the right to sort of react to.
What percentage of Republicans now don't believe in the legitimacy of the 2020 election? Like, what percentage of Republicans will support Donald Trump doing whatever the fuck he wants in terms of using the National Guard to go wherever the fuck he wants, or doing literally whatever he wants in terms of foreign policy, threatening allies with invasion? It's whatever.
The world with a mentality of grievance that can then translate into a desire to rip things out by the roots.
Compared to a decade ago, are you more or less comfortable on the right?
I mean, in what way? I mean,
how do you even have to think about this? If you were a neocon, how could you ever be comfortable with the right? Another reason why these conversations are so fucking boring is because Ben Shapiro is one of the leading figureheads of the right wing right now. And because I guess maybe this is just everything in politics, I guess. I'm glad I'm I nonpartisan media, so I have the opportunity to be flexible. I don't even know if these guys even have the backbone to guide their movement. He's a slave to whatever Donald Trump and the rest of the right says. I don't think he has the courage or the backbone or the integrity to oppose them on anything. So every fucking answer he gives has to be, well, how is the MAGA audience going to interpret this when I say this? And then everything is filtered through that. It's so boring.
Oh, are you more or less comfortable on the right?
I mean, in what way? I mean, I'm.
You choose?
Well, I mean, ideologically, I don't think I've moved very much, probably over the course of my career. I started writing a syndicated column when I was 17. And so, the dumbest things I said were probably between the ages of 17 and 20. Others may argue, but between the ages of 17 and probably 25. But my kind of root ideology has not changed very much in terms of being very free market oriented, being very hawkish on foreign policy, being in favor of traditional social policy. That really hasn't changed very much. I'm very comfortable with my own viewpoint. As far as, do I see more opposition from people who identify as part of the right? Yeah, obviously there's a lot more opposition. It's a much more, it's a less unified movement ideologically, for sure.
Let me try to characterize what I see the argument becoming here, but you can tell me the ways in which you think this is wrong. But this is sort of what I took from the book. That the claim of the right, you have one version of it, different right-wing thinkers have other versions of it, is that the left has turned against the foundations of Western civilization. That they've come to hate, that they now, universities teach their young to hate. Everything that made us great, and the virtues that made us great: strength, ambition, risk-taking, Judeo-Christian beliefs, and this fundamental civilizational inheritance. And so what's changed, it used to be a fight about policy, and now it's a fight about, is all this good or not? And that's...
Was it a fight about policy under Obama? When McConnell said they were going to do everything they could to make him a one-term president and resist every single thing and be oppositional to every single thing possible.
A much more fundamental kind of conflict.
I mean, I think that's a relatively fair characterization, sure.
And when do you think the topic changed? How would you describe the move from, let's call it the Reaganite right, Or for that matter, the left of that era,
So
or the Democratic Party of that
I have
era,
sort of a-
whatever you think we're in now.
Sure. So I sort of have a grand unifying field theory of modern American politics, which is that the election that people don't care about is actually the most important election, and that's 2012. So in 2008, Barack Obama runs as unifying candidate. Like him or hate him, I didn't vote for him. I was not a fan. The Barack Obama ran as somebody who was, in his very personage, unifying America. There's no red America. There's no blue America. There was just the United States. There's no black or white America. There was just Americans. And the idea was that he was sort of the apotheosis of the coming together. He was going to be the culmination. There was just the first camp don't care about is actually the most important election, and that's 2012. So in 2008, Barack Obama runs as unifying candidate. Like him or hate him, I didn't vote for him. I was not a fan. The Barack Obama ran as somebody who was, in his very personage, unifying America. There's no red America. There's no blue America. There was just the United States. There was no black or white America. There was just Americans. And the idea was that he was sort of the apotheosis of the coming together. He was going to be the culmination of a lot of these strands of American history coming together to put to bed so many of the problems that had sort of plagued America over the course of our tumultuous history. And then he pushed a fairly rote left-wing agenda with regard to, for example, Obamacare. The reactions
Which
of
he
the Tea
ran
Party.
on. Right, that
sure.
was not a hidden part of his
For
08
sure.
campaign.
No, for sure. But that's not why people voted for him predominantly. His overwhelming victory, I do not think, was due to his support for a much more government-involved healthcare system. Democrats have been running on that my entire life. I mean, all the way back to Hillary Care, and they were trying to run on that back in the 90s. So something changed, and it wasn't Obamacare per se. So he runs, he wins, Obamacare happens, there's a big blowback in the form of the Tea Party.
The great unifier. Did Obama call himself that, or was that Rush Limbaugh's nickname for Obama? I'm trying to remember if I'm hallucinating this or not. Where Rush Limbaugh would always say, the great unifier. Am I making this up? Or did Obama call himself that? The great unifier? Why is Cenk attacking you? I thought he hated MAGA as much as you. No, Cenk and Anna are MAGA dick sucks, bro. What are you talking about?
And he reacts to that by essentially polarizing the electorate. He decides that instead of kind of broadcasting to the general electorate a sort of optimistic message about America, that he is going to narrowcast his election in 2012. He's going to base it on much more identity groups rooted politics. He's going to appeal to black Americans as black Americans and gay Americans as gay Americans and Latino Americans as Latino Americans. And there are a lot of articles coming out at this time about essentially demographics is destiny, and there's going to be a new minority-majority coalition in the United States. And Mitt Romney, who is the most milquetoast and probably, I'd say, personally clean candidate in my lifetime, he is characterized as a person who forcibly cuts the hair of gay kids and straps dogs to the top of his car, and he might put you all back in chains, as Joe Biden said during the campaign. And Mitt Romney loses. And I think that the parties take away from that precisely the wrong messages. They take away the same message, but then they manifest it differently. The message taken away by the Democratic Party is we have an unbeatable coalition, this new coalition that Barack Obama has forged in 2012, in which he lost votes from 2008, but he still maintained a very solid majority. This is the way forward. Right? We will never lose again because we will be able to cobble together majority-minority coalition, some college-educated white people, particularly female, and we're never going to lose again. And Republicans took away exactly the same message, which was no matter how milquetoast we run, no matter how clean the candidate, we're going to get ripped up and down, and we're going to lose. We're just demographically losing the argument. And so what Republicans came away with was, we're just going to throw whatever against the wall. The big problem here is that Mitt Romney was simply too nice a guy. We need to run the biggest pulsating middle finger that we can. That pulsating middle finger is Donald Trump. And so we're going to run him in 2016. And Democrats took away from this that it basically didn't kind of matter who's at the top of the ticket. You could put in Hillary Clinton, and she could just inherit the Barack Obama coalition.
But, I don't understand any of this analysis. Am I too? How old is Ben? He's older than me, right? I don't think Obama was ever elected as like the great unifier. It seemed to be, to some extent, a repudiation of the Iraq and Afghanistan stuff was deeply, I think, unpopular by the time this election season rolled around. We had the whole insane housing crisis shit that was completely fucked. I'm trying to think if we were hitting was it like $4 a gallon or $100 a barrel for oil? I think was like, these were like talking points that I vaguely remember. Somebody linked polling around the time. So the economy, by August of 2008, energy plus 23 points. Healthcare is here. Education, not as much. Iraq was here. Terrorism. I say education, not as much, but there's still 73% of people that care about it. Terrorism, moral values is 61. Environment, trade policy, abortion, and gay marriage. Yeah, energy had grown massively. In terms of being an important thing on this election. I remember the hope and change thing being a big thing for Obama. But then his analysis here of, so Republicans thought that what we needed to do was this with Trump after. No, they didn't. None of the Republican establishment thought that. The Republican establishment, you included, all fucking hated Trump. They super hated Trump. He managed to like claw his way through the primary system because the voters voted for him, but that wasn't like a strategic thing. The voters just liked him.
We're just demographically losing the argument. And so what Republicans came away with was, we're just going to throw whatever against the wall. The big problem here is that Mitt Romney was simply too nice a guy. We need to run the biggest pulsating middle finger that we can. That pulsating middle finger is Donald Trump.
You're just that's just such a wrong analysis. They ran so many bog standard neocons. Who were the last people standing in the primaries? It was fucking Trump alongside what? Rubio and Ted Cruz? These were copy pasted neocons. Who else? Chris Christie was a little bit unconventional. He was there for a while. And then who else was holding on to the end? Kasich was kind of there. Jeb Bush was there initially. He was popular in the beginning. This idea that they chose Trump? Okay.
And so we're going to run him in 2016. And Democrats took away from this that it basically didn't kind of matter who's at the top of the ticket. You could put in Hillary Clinton and she could just inherit the Barack Obama coalition because that was the new Democratic coalition. And then
this feels to me, without going too deep into it, this feels to me like a more narrow argument of political strategy. I don't even totally disagree with it. I do think that the Democrats' embrace of a demographic triumphalism was pretty disastrous. And I would obviously, predictably, put more weight on what the right is doing. But I think I'm pushing you a little bit into something more fundamental here.
No, but I think
which is this is where it becomes the fight over Western civilization. Because I would say during this period you have, when you're talking about Barack Obama with his sort of, micro-targeted polling or whatever it is, it's like you have the birther smear emergent on the right,
I think
in a very potent way. So, right, Obama creates reaction as well, just by nature of who he is.
Well,
and
I
what
don't
he
think it's just
represents.
as easy as that. I mean, for people who don't, kind of live on the right and imbibe from the media of the right during this time, the understanding on the right was that Barack Obama was a much more divisive figure than the left and the traditional media like to say that he was.
Yeah, because you guys said it constantly, because you guys obsessed over him constantly. No shit.
And they saw him as a fundamental transformative change agent who did not see the American experiment in a positive light.
Well,
and they felt
you guys said for 8 years that this guy would deliver us to a socialist communist hellhole, and that that Obamacare would bring in old people death panels that would condemn to death every senior citizen in the United States of America. That's what you guys said.
The right, and I sort of agree with this, that he was dissimulating, that he was dissembling, that when he was saying that all the sort of positive, sunny, optimistic vision of America, that what he actually meant was the Cairo speech, where America was sort of a sinner in the Middle East, and that his view of American history was much more along the lines of what he said about Henry Louis Gates or Trayvon Martin than it was along the lines of there's no white America and black America, there's just Americans. And so the reaction of the right was, okay, this is an interest group-based politics that does not particularly like the founding, and we are going to react to that with Trumpism.
So if you understand Obama...
Nobody wanted Trumpism, bro. Somebody linked this. Even you didn't want Trumpism, bro. Why is he pretending this? March 4th, 2016. I stand against the establishment that sowed the seeds of Trumpism. I stand against the Republican Party that insists that victory matters more than principle, because victory without principle isn't just meaningless. It's counterproductive to my belief system. # never Trump. He also had a lot of mean things to say about Trump in 2021 after he lost. Again, like, what do you mean? The establishment did not want Donald Trump. Trump just managed to fight his way through the primaries and win. But all the Republican establishment hated this guy.
And Biden, more from the left. What are the moments in those presidencies that the people on the right are radicalizing, right? That sort of differ from how differently you see them from maybe how I do?
Well, I think that for President Obama, I think the left perceives the Obamacare moment as the moment that the right sort of radicalized. And I don't think that that's actually right. I think the bitter clingers comments were a big one. That was in the 2008 election. I think the
what?
That's actually right. I think the bitter clingers comments.
The bitter clingers comments. Oh, the ones that you guys took out of context that even J.D. Vance was able to more accurately summarize. They took, yeah, he's right. But in a way, Ben Shapiro's right. You guys grab onto singular comments, right? You grab onto these one things and then you blast it all over your media. Like Obama is attacking guns and religion. And then that's all you guys fixate on. It's so funny that in a very ironic way, he's accurately summarizing the stupidity of his entire political aisle.
Were a big one. That was in the 2008 election. I think the Henry Louis Gates statement.
Recently, Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. was arrested at his home in Cambridge. What does that incident say to you, and what does it say about race relations in America?
In which he suggested that the officer had acted stupidly and then sort of linked that with racial discrimination in the past.
I think it's fair to say, number one.
Just this, one of the biggest issues, there's an issue, okay, with, especially going back a little bit more in the past, okay? Maybe it's not quite the same today, but I'm sure it's still a lingering issue, okay? When you are black, you will always be black, and you will never escape that blackness, okay? People will always look at you, and people that don't like black people will never like black people. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how prestigious you are. Hopefully I'm not mixing this up. This was an event where was it a Harvard professor was trying to get into his own house, and somebody called the cops on him, and I think the cops showed up and arrested him, right? Is this an event that I'm remembering? Correct me if I'm wrong. This epitomizes the fear of black people in terms of like, oh, so you're always an N-word to these guys. And yeah, this was a super heated moment. I think a lot of people felt very strongly about this when it happened. If this is what I'm remembering. Henry Louis Gates. Let me make sure I have. American literary critic, professor, historian, filmmaker, who served as the Alphonse Fletcher University professor and director at the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard University. He's a trustee of the... Okay. And then he was this here? On July 16, 2009, following a trip to China, Gates returned home to his residence in Cambridge, Massachusetts, near Harvard Square. The front door was jammed. His taxi driver attempted to help him gain entrance. A passerby called police, reporting a possible break-in after describing to 911 an individual forcing the front door open. Cambridge police officers were dispatched. Following a confrontation, Gates was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct. Prosecutors later dropped the charges. Then Barack Obama, oh, I remember this, acted stupidly. He said that they acted stupidly. And people lost their fucking mind over this. So cringe to me how they went so apeshit over this. Sorry.
Acted stupidly and then sort of linked that with racial discrimination in the past.
I think it's fair to say, number one, any of us would be pretty angry. Number two, that the Cambridge police
acted
stupidly in arresting somebody when there was already proof that they were in their own home. And number three, what I think we know separate and apart from this incident is...
Fuck, was there a comic or a meme? Is it a Dave Chappelle thing I'm thinking of? This N-word broke in and look at this. He hung up pictures of his own family here. Was this a Dave Chappelle sketch?
And number three, what I think we know separate and apart from this incident is that there is a long history in this country of African Americans and Latinos being stopped by law enforcement disproportionately. And that's just a fact.
The Trayvon Martin situation was quite polarizing for sure.
But my main message is to the parents of Trayvon Martin. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
The Ferguson riots.
Imagine going to any Obama speech and these are radicalizing you as a conservative. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is out here saying the most unhinged shit ever, constantly, and these fucking ass clowns are like, oh well, that's just Trump. He just jokes, lol. Like he just said, this is the party of we take him seriously, not literally, over and over and over again.
Those I think would be sort of the biggest examples of,
and those are his in a sit-down interview with Ezra Klein. These are Ben Shapiro's biggest examples of why they didn't like him. Not even policy-oriented, not even government-oriented, theory of government, nothing like that. Just these comments on racial stuff.
Of Barack Obama kind of setting off the right, so to speak.
It's interesting you choose those. I mean, those are
a few words, singular statements that weren't followed up by any aggressive executive action, DOJ action, crazy policies, sweeping changes to the structure of government. Doesn't that make you sound kind of fucking unhinged, Ben?
Mostly first rhetorical examples. It's like, take the Bitter Clingers comment, because I actually think about this one a lot, right, where he gets caught on this, he's on tape.
You go to some of these small towns in Pennsylvania, a lot of small towns in the Midwest. Yep, the jobs have been gone now for 25 years and nothing's replaced it. And they've gone through the Clinton administration and the Bush administration. And each successive administration has said that somehow these communities are going to regenerate, and they have not. So it's not surprising then that they get better and they cling to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them.
Sorry, you guys are saying 2008 Mike. This is like secretly recorded from some donor dinner. By the way, Obama's correct here. And J.D. Vance's analysis of this was correct as well. And I think that Republicans would even agree with the sentiment behind this, right? Is policies like NAFTA, things that have made America as a whole much better off, have left particular communities incredibly damaged and incredibly demotivated. They don't have good jobs anymore. They don't have the ability to pursue, and from jobs, they don't have the ability to pursue families, lifestyles, things that they could be proud of to contributing. That some of these communities have been destroyed by globalization, that they weren't able to participate in an America that resembled the America from the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? That the America had changed or morphed in a way that they weren't able to participate as much anymore. And so now, yeah, of course, they cling to their gods and their guns, or they cling to religions and guns, or they are anti-immigrant, or they're afraid of other things, right? Remember, in that J.D. Vance interview, even he agreed with this, right? And most Republican states are like, oh, sure, if you phrase it a little differently. But even taken as this is phrased, it's not even that bad. But the media, the right-wing media, ran with, Obama says that all Republicans just cling to gods and their God and their guns. And they just like made it the most ridiculous fucking hit piece ever.
Religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them.
The Chappelle bit.
Scared of them. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh.
Like me. Guy Chip didn't even know he couldn't race. I'm not saying I don't like police. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm just scared of them. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we want to call them too. Somebody broke into my house once. It's a good time to call them, but The house is too nice. It ain't a real nice house, but they never believe I lived in it. He's still here. Oh my God. Open and shut case, Johnson. I saw this once before when I was a rookie. Apparently this nigger broke in and hung up pictures of his family everywhere. Well, let's sprinkle some crack on him and get out of here.
Now the modern iteration of that joke was that one cop ever charged where she went to the wrong house, I think, and then when she got in, a black guy was living there and she shot and killed him? Whatever. What was the resolution to that? Jesus. She was charged? Well, that's good at least. Wait, she wasn't? She got 10 years for first-degree murder. Oh, okay. Oh, Amber Geiger got 5 years. She's the sheriff now. How have I not heard of that? Wait, what do you mean? How have you not heard of that? Cop goes to wrong house, kills black guy. Wait, it's apartment. I shouldn't be laughing. It's not funny.
We start with breaking news this midday. We are learning more information about the Dallas police officer who investigators say walked into the wrong apartment and shot 26-year-old Botham Jean. This happened at Southside Flats on South Lamar Street. Officials say Jean died at the hospital. Thanks for joining us this Friday afternoon for News 8 Midday. I'm Alicia Laventure. Now, our Chris Sadeghi has been on the scene of the shooting on South Lamar since early this morning, and he brings us this report breaking down what happened.
A Dallas police officer lives here at the Southside Flats and was returning home after working a full shift last night around 10 o'clock when she was trying to get into what she thought was her apartment. But she was mistaken, and the mistakes continued when she shot the man inside. He would eventually die. The victim is 26-year-old Botham Jean. We talked to people who live here at the Southside Flats, and they said this morning they could see blood in the hallway and in the stairwell. We're not sure the exact details of how or why the officer was trying to get into the wrong apartment or why she felt the need to fire her gun, but that officer is at Dallas PD headquarters, which is just a block away, being questioned. The police department and the district attorney's office are a part of this investigation, and they will have to determine what are the appropriate charges ultimately filed against the officer. Chris Sadeghi, News 8 Midday.
And this midday, we're learning more about the man killed in his own apartment, Botham Jean. We've heard nothing but great things from his family, his alma mater.
And Jean, and he was just 20. And there's several comments here. Now, we're learning that Botham went to Harding University. He majored.
But, sorry.
Anti-immigrant sentiment or anti-trade sentiment. And a way to explain their frustrations.
It's like, to me, if you compare that to things that get said, even say to Hillary Clinton's deplorables comment, right? He basically says, look, you have people in towns that these towns have lost everything. They've lost their jobs. They've lost the plants that employed everybody, that they have been, like, their fundamental dignity and livelihoods have been taken away from them. And yeah, in that condition, people get bitter. And then he does say, like, they cling to guns and religion, which I think he wishes he
and
didn't.
xenophobia, right?
And xenophobia. It's actually very different than the deplorables.
You're such an empath, Ezra. I mean, the way that the right reads that is him sneering at those people, meaning...
But that's clearly not what he meant. He's such an empath, or maybe he's just not a fucking illiterate dipshit. What do you mean? You go into some of these small towns in Pennsylvania, and like a lot of small towns in the Midwest, the jobs have been gone now for 25 years and nothing's replaced them. How else could you read that statement besides these places are getting fucked? And then they fell through the Clinton administration and the Bush administration. And each successive administration has said that somehow these communities are going to regenerate, and they have not. So it's not surprising then that they get bitter, they cling to guns or religion or antipathy to people who aren't like them, or anti-immigrant sentiment or anti-trade sentiment as a way to explain their frustrations. Like, in what world does this read, you have to be an empath to figure out what the fuck he meant here? Like, holy shit.
And a way to explain their frustrations.
It's like, to me, if you compare that to things that get said, even say to Hillary Clinton's deplorables comment, right? He basically says, look, you have people in towns that these towns have lost everything. They've lost their jobs. They've lost the plants that employed everybody, that they have been, like, their fundamental dignity and livelihoods have been taken away from them. And yeah, in that condition, people get bitter. And then he does say, like, they cling to guns and religion, which I think he wishes he
and
didn't.
xenophobia, right?
And xenophobia. It's actually very different than
You're such an empath, Ezra. I mean, the way that the right reads that is him sneering at those people. Meaning, if they only weren't xenophobic and religious and hollowed out by life, then they would totally buy into what I'm selling them.
Like this is not good faith. I hate Ezra Klein. I'm sorry, I don't hate Ezra. I love Ezra. I'm sorry. This is not good faith. This isn't real. This isn't even the same Ben Shapiro of like 4 years ago or 8 years ago, or 12 years ago. This is not a real interpretation of that statement. Now we're being asked to pretend. Fuck, who did I watch last time that did this? Oh, it was Aaron and Pisco. Now we're being asked to pretend that this is of a legitimate reading of that comment. It's so stupid to suggest this causal relation that Obama was talking about goes both ways. What a stupid and unbelievably bad faith, like intentionally dumb reading of this.
Xenophobic and religious and hollowed out by life, then they would totally buy into what I'm selling them. And I think that this also meshes very well with what the right tends to think.
He's saying that we have failed them, right? That they wouldn't just buy into what he's selling them. He's saying that, like, the left has, like, abandoned these people.
Right, but I will not fail these people. And if I were given the power, then I would fix all of their problems. And really, they
fix them how, Ben? Fix them how? By getting rid of their racism or by providing them with jobs? He just said every successive administration failed those people. Fix them how?
If they only understood how much I could fix their problems, then and what's keeping them from doing that, the reason they won't embrace me, it's what I would say is this is the mirror image of how the left viewed what Mitt Romney was saying about the 47% of people who would never vote for him. So people on the right read that like, okay, there's a bunch of people who aren't paying taxes. They're unlikely to vote for a person who's going to lower taxes. And people on the left read that as he's sneering at people who are not paying taxes. Right? And so I think that there is that element here.
It's also the other couple of examples you give are interesting for just being about race, right? And again,
the racial issue
here,
yes, like. Again, the polling data here is very, very clear. Racial relations in this country got markedly worse in 2013, 2014, 2015.
But is that because Barack Obama should have been more positive on what happened to Trayvon Martin or what happened in a very different way to Henry Louis Gates, or because it was hard for people to hear, like, yeah, if you're a black man and you see these, your interpretation is, yeah, like, we get hassled by the cops often for no reason in a way that white people don't really understand, or my son could have been Trayvon, right?
You know, when Trayvon Martin was first shot, I said that this could have been my son. Another way of saying that is Trayvon Martin could have been me 35 years ago. And when you think about why, in the African American community at least, there's a lot of pain around what happened here, I think it's important to recognize that the African American community is looking at this issue through a set of experiences and a history that doesn't go away.
Like, wow, what a crazy offensive statement he just made there. Unbelievable how fucking disgusting that statement was that Obama made. But what would happen is one or two words for this would get clipped and then ran nonstop on O'Reilly, on Hannity. Glenn Beck would connect it to the communists. Rush Limbaugh would amplify it to the morning crowd. Michael Savage would scream at callers talking about it, trying to defend the comments. And then the conservative media would amplify this nonstop. And so they had you convinced that they wanted all of you to be turned into Zimmermans and arrested just for bravely defending innocent people from evil Trayvon Martin. It's just like so stupid.
There are very few African American men in this country who haven't had the experience of being followed when they were shopping in a department store. That includes me.
I understand that is also an expression of pain, right? An effort to try to, like, build a bridge. It's very hard for you to imagine and Donald Trump doing the Henry Louis Gates, the beer summit, as it got called, where he had the cop and Gates to the White House at the same time. It's hard for me when I look back on that.
Oh, shit. Wait, I didn't even remember that. Obama invited both the cop and the... President Obama called both men on July 24th and invited them to the White House to discuss the situation over beers. Both men accepted the offer. Upon accepting, Gates stated in an email to the Boston Globe, "My entire academic career has been based on improving race relations, not exacerbating them. I am hopeful that my experience will lead to greater sensitivity to issues of racial profiling in the criminal justice system." One of Gates' lawyers, Harvard law professor Charles Ogletree, a former professor of Obama, stated that, "I think the president has taken the right approach by trying to make sure we move forward. He's always had the ability to negotiate difficult conversations, and the steps today are an important step in the right direction. I think the president has given his assessment, which makes a lot of sense, and however you feel about it, has reduced the temperature and allowed everyone to move forward in a constructive way." When asked for his impression of Crawley, the cop, Gates joked, "We hit it off right from the very beginning. When he's not arresting you, Sergeant Crawley is a really likable guy." Like, imagine this. Like, it's not, there's no comparison, bro.
Called where you had the cop and Gates to the White House at the same time. It's hard for me.
Destiny, whether or not it's true, there's literally no benefit in telling white people how much easier they have it. It literally just makes people spiteful. But there's two things that's so stupid about that statement. One, like, Obama wasn't even trying to, he didn't even say anything in that statement about like white privilege. He was just saying, listen, if you're black, here's some bullshit experiences you might have to go through, right? But then even on the flip side of that, when Obama is trying to explain why white people in certain communities might feel like shit, right? They felt like they got abandoned by NAFTA and the Clintons. They felt like their jobs were gone. They were never coming back. Every administration's been in. That's also not okay. You can't explain that either. Like, what is he allowed to say? It's crazy.
When I look back on that, and the beer summit in particular, to hear like that's what radicalized you all?
Yes.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
And the reason is because the implicit promise of Barack Obama was the worst conflict in the history of America, which is the racial history of the United States, which is truly horrifying.
He's about to cite some shit. I think Ben, hold on. Somebody find me if Rush Limbaugh called Obama the great unifier, because I know what he's about to say, because I listened to Rush Limbaugh say this over and over again, that Obama was supposed to be our first like post-racial president, that all the race relations were supposed to be solved. Obama promised that all of the issues, post-racial America, I think Limbaugh would say this statement over and over and over again,
was the worst conflict in the history of America, which is the racial history of the United States, which is truly horrifying. That in his person, he was basically going to be the capstone of the great movement toward Martin Luther King's dream. And when
nobody on the left, I don't remember at least anybody saying this. Maybe did Obama ever say this? I'm going to solve racism. I'm going to be the end of all of racism in the United States. Give me a fucking break. Oh, great unifier. He says it here. Now, this is the great unifier, Limbaugh told listeners just afternoon today. This is the man who's going to unify everybody and usher in a new era of bipartisanship and love. Limbaugh has said that he wants Obama's socialist policies to fail. I would be honored if the drive-by media headlined me all day long. Limbaugh, I hope Obama fails. Somebody's got to say it.
Instead, things seem to move in the opposite direction, which was, well, it turns out that black people in America, they're inherently victimized by a system, by a white supremacist system that puts black people underfoot. And my son could have been Trayvon. And people on the right saw that as like, well, but that's not true. You aren't.
Oh my God. Like, this is like demonic shit. Like, no one can draw attention to any problem in the gentlest of ways. Do you understand how fucking snowflakey this sounds right now? Are you serious? How much of a fucking snowflake you are by saying this? Like, oh, black dude is like, I look at Trayvon and I feel like, that could have been my kid. Oh, so all black people are oppressed forever by a white supremacist organization called the United States of America, and there's no hope and no chance, even though you're wealthier than blah, blah. Like, oh my God, bro, are you serious? I remember this, Megyn Kelly, yesterday, right? This was unhinged.
We don't feel like ourselves. We haven't felt like ourselves in a while. And I'm sorry to get political, but I'm just going to be honest. We haven't felt like our...
By the way, because people like Wick would be saying things like, oh, well, maybe Joe Biden and the left, maybe they went too hard on the Republicans, or maybe they were, Biden could have phrased the thing or worded it better. Well, apparently all the attacks on Joe Biden didn't work, because now we're hearing more about who? Obama. Now we're going back to Obama. What did Tulsi dig out of the closet in order to save us from the Epstein files? Russiagate with Obama and Hillary Clinton. Who's the fault that we blame now? I guess the Biden attacks just weren't landing, so now we're talking about Obama again? That's
political, but I'm just going to be honest. We haven't felt like ourselves since Barack Obama. I just think he was such a slick snake. He was this affable guy who was like wearing good suits and looked the part.
This is a humanity test for you, by the way, and a racism test for you, and a fucking it's just so unbelievable to look at Obama and think, wow. Like, it's the same thing they do with Joe Biden, though. It's the same joke, right? This is the same play, just with different actors, right? Obama or Joe Biden radicalized all of us. He radicalized, the shooters. Oh, really? Biden? Where's the picture? Was it Gemzar that drew that one? I heard you loud and clear, Biden. Let's go. Like, seriously? That's the guy radicalizing us? Obama is the one radicalizing people, but never Trump. Never anything Trump says. Ben Shapiro, supposedly one of the smartest right-wing commenters in all of U.S. politics, when asked how did Obama radicalize the right, the 3 of the 4 examples that he gives are small statements, the most non-offensive statements possible that Obama said about race relation crime in the United States. Really?
And sounded the part and dressed the part, but was so divisive in his messaging. The left, they look at you like, when you say this, they don't know what you're talking about. It's like, because you don't pay attention to the other half of the country. You only pay attention to your absurd news sources, which spin and spin and spin to protect Democrats, especially if they're named Obama. He's the one who started to inject race where no one had been doing it. He's the one who started to use his pen and the phone to shove things down our throat that we didn't want. He's the one who shoved through an entitlement on our health care and our personal doctor visits that he promised he wouldn't mess with, and then he did, really hurting people, causing massive anger and open lies. He never missed an opportunity to twist the knife on the racial issue. He would do it subtly and in his own way, but it was very clear what he was doing. He never...
Like, this person sounds like somebody being gang stalked, right? You understand that, right? This person sounds like a schizo. Like, what's going on? This guy, he's been all over me, stalking me. Like, which guy? He shows up at the gym. I see him around my apartment complex. He's looked at me several times going through my hallway. Damn, he stalked you to your apartment complex? Yes. Do you know where he lives? Down the hallway from me. Oh. How do you know he's stalking you at the gym? He's there every time I go. Do you go at the same time? Yes, but he's still there looking at me. Really? Like staring at you? Has he ever talked to you? No, but I know that he wants to. Have you ever caught him staring at you? No, he only does it when my back is turned. And I know he's doing the most insidious stuff ever. I know that he's rigging the machines and he's adding weight to my bar when I'm not looking. And it's like, you sound schizophrenic. You sound crazy.
He never...
Like, the United States politics had no race at all involved until Obama brought it in.
We're scared.
Flashback to McCain in 2000. McCain ran in 2008, right? Or was McCain 2012? Wait, when did McCain-Palin run? It was 2000. Okay, yeah, Romney was the second time. Okay.
We're scared of an Obama presidency, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, so it's up here. I'm sorry.
I'm concerned about someone that cohorts with domestic terrorists such as Ayers.
I have to tell you,
Ben Ayers. That's the Weather Underground. I only know that because I remember hearing my mom repeat this conspiracy constantly. That Obama was working with terrorist groups and shit all the time, and invited this guy to the White House because he wanted to blow up all of. Oh wait, is it Bill Ayers or whatever? This guy was related. He was with the Weather Underground, right? I just remember hearing that Weather Underground comment so many times.
He is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States. Now, I just...
Like... What?
Not have to be scared.
He didn't say that Obama had good policies, that we agree with this policy. He just said you don't have to be scared of the black man. I'm sorry, Barack Obama being president of the United States.
with domestic terrorists such as heirs.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States. Now, look, I
got to ask you a question. I do not I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No.
That was enough back then to not trust somebody, by the way.
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's.
This is the kind of leadership that you would need to see in your party. People like McCain, people in the media. You would need to see people like this. People like to spin this and meme this. I can't tell if you guys are retarded or not, or if you're just memeing, where he's like, no, he's not an Arab, he's a decent man. He wasn't saying, no, he's not an Arab. He was just saying, no, I know Obama. He's a decent man, he's a family man. That's what he's saying. But
that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you.
For the first time, we had a president who weighed in on legal cases before they'd played out. We never did that. That was a taboo that had never been crossed before him. And Donald Trump was the reason Barack Obama, reverse that. Barack Obama was the reason Donald Trump came about, that he was born as a political figure. They say Trump's divisive. He was the antidote. He was the answer to the divisiveness of Barack Obama. And we just haven't felt like ourselves for years now.
anyway, what a crazy... Somebody said that the comments on this
upper class black
make you feel more sane. Ezra, the leaders of the Republican Party declaring war are not the same as rando Twitter accounts posting memes. No significant figures on the left did anything of this kind. Terrible, weak equivalents. Oh, no. Does Ezra both sides of this? Well, I'll keep watching. But the fact that Ben never actually answered the question about what his red line would be from Trump. They never answer this because they can't. The reason why they can't... Well, actually, I'll wait till I watch it. But the reason why they won't answer it is because they know that they have none. And they don't know what they can say that Trump won't go over the line on.
And my son could have been Trayvon. And people on the right saw that as like, well, but that's not true. You are an upper class black man who is living in the White House. And unless your son was mistaken for a prowler going around at night in a neighborhood, then no, that actually wouldn't happen to your son. In fact, you have 2 black daughters, and that stuff has never happened to them. So the sort of Michael Brown and Ferguson, the idea that when the president went out and he said that people wouldn't just make this up, right? And it turns out actually that a lot of it was made up. Right?
It kind of sounds like that the interpretation of Obama, at least to you, was that if he's elected, we'll agree we've gotten past all this. Like, it's supposed to make us feel better. Well, and then when it didn't, like, that was understood as the betrayal of a promise.
Well, I mean, again, that is how I
feel better. If he's elected, we'll agree we've gotten past all this. Like, it's supposed to make...
A lot of it was made up.
Right? It kind of sounds like that the interpretation of Obama, at least to you, was that if he's elected, we'll agree we've gotten past all this. Like, it's supposed to make us feel better. Well, and then when it didn't, like, that was understood as the betrayal of a promise.
Well, I mean, again, that is how I think most Americans saw it, including black Americans. That was a widespread sentiment.
That black people in the United States thought that with the black president, the racial issues had been solved? I am so sorry. I would like to formally rescind every single compliment I've ever given Ben Shapiro on his intelligence. Whether he ever was smart or not, it's all gone. That I can't... What an unbelievable statement. What? What an unbelievably fucking stupid statement. This guy's mind was rotted by conservative media. I know it was because we listened to the same conservative media. My God.
Again, that is how I think most Americans saw it, including black Americans. That was a widespread sentiment, not just among white Americans, among black Americans, is that something had gone radically wrong in 2013, 2014. So something happened. And this was an argument that was made by legacy media a lot, which was that the real reason people were so exercised about Obamacare wasn't because they really cared about Obamacare. Right? It was really because there were a lot of bitter clingers out there who, were clinging to their God and their guns and their xenophobia, and they didn't really like the black president. And
what, that God and guns quote was from 2008. He wasn't even president yet. Wait, what is this guy talking about?
It's really because there were a lot of bitter clingers out there who, were clinging to their God and their guns and their xenophobia, and they didn't really like the black president. And if a white president pushed Obamacare, then probably they probably had some problems with it, but they wouldn't have gone crazy like this. I mean, these people. I
can tell you there's actually, you were saying there's evidence on this. Like, there was a lot of polling on this, on how attitudes on race correlate with attitudes about Obamacare.
I mean, that may be the case, but the point is that the perception by people who are not actually picking on Barack Obama because of his race, or picking on him because of his politics, was that suddenly everything was being refracted through a racial lens.
Wait.
Barack Obama because of his race. The point is that the perception by people who are not actually picking on Barack Obama because of his race, or picking on him because of his politics, was that suddenly everything was being refracted through a racial lens.
You literally just said that your biggest problems with Obama, you brought up healthcare as one example, and every other example was just a Barack Obama comment about like a thing that had happened in the United States. How can you claim that it was his politics that you were opposed of? Ezra should push him policy-wise. What are some things that you were super opposed of then? You said you're a hawkish man, right? Wasn't the Obama State Department, wasn't the Obama government like fairly hawkish, right? You remember the whole fucking Libya shit? Remember that? Like, was the Obama, White House not relatively forward, like stuff related to Syria? Like, would you wanted more? Like, I hope they talk policy more.
How do you understand the birther thing?
So the way that I understand the birther thing, in terms of, you mean the public resonance of the birther thing on the right?
I mean that you have a black president, and there is a wildfire-like theory that he's actually born in Kenya. Dinesh D'Souza does a whole movie about this, or documentary, whatever it was.
To be fair to Dinesh, she doesn't actually claim that Obama was born in Kenya in the documentary.
Donald Trump is a prime pusher of this,
yes.
right? That felt...
So that's a combination of two things. That's a combination of two things, I think. Really, if you're going to try to intellectualize it, and again, you're intellectualizing...
Well, I'm not trying to intellectualize it. What I am...
Documentary.
Donald Trump is a prime pusher of this,
yes.
right? That felt...
So that's a combination of two things. That's a combination of two things, I think. Really, if you're going to try to intellectualize it, and again, you're intellectualizing...
Well, I'm not trying to intellectualize it. What I am saying is that, like, people were not saying that Bill Clinton was not born here. They need to show his birth certificate. They need to prove his Americanness.
Well, so I will say that I think that part of it was the same instinct that led people to say that Donald Trump was a Russian agent, meaning I don't...
Dude, I can't. I'm going to hate Ezra. I don't want to hate Ezra. Don't make me hate Ezra. Please don't make me hate Ezra. This is the conversation that I had with Ben Shapiro, except even gentler.
Understand where this person is coming from. I don't understand what their philosophy is. I don't understand why he's thinking the way he's thinking. It must be that he's not from here.
You don't understand why people might think that Donald Trump was lukewarm with Russia after he lied about the meeting that several of his campaign surrogates, and I think his son, or was it Kushner, had a meeting with a foreign Russian agent inside of his own tower and lied about what that meeting was about until the media dug through it and finally got them to admit that it was to dig up dirt on political opponents. You think that it's the same thing driving people to wonder about Trump being a Russian agent when Russia literally hacked DNC servers and had the emails as our headlines for 6 months or whatever in that fucking election cycle, when Donald Trump publicly called for Russia to leak the 30,000 emails saying they'd be rewarded greatly by the press, when Roger Stone was admitted to communicating with the actual Russian hackers on Twitter at the time the media releases it to the press. Like, how is this even remotely? You can say, if you want, you can say that I think that the Russia stuff was ultimately nothing. Fine. Stupid, but fine. But to claim that that's the same type of thing, that people that thought that the Russia shit with Trump was really weird compared to that's the same thing as the people who were obsessing over Barack Obama's race or whatever.
Intellectualize it, and again, you're intellectualizing.
Well, I'm not trying to intellectualize it. What I am saying is that, like, people were not saying that Bill Clinton was not born here. They need to show his birth certificate. They need to prove his Americanness.
Well, so I will say that I think that part of it was the same instinct that led people to say that Donald Trump was a Russian agent, meaning I don't understand where this person is coming from. I don't understand what their philosophy is. I don't understand why he's thinking the way he's thinking. It must be that he's not from here. So I think that there was some of that. In the same way that the left did I don't understand who this Trump guy is. I don't understand why he's saying what he's saying. It must be that he's a paid Russian agent. So which similarly spread like wildfire. It was not race-based, right? And then I do think that there was an element of, he has a very,
please, bro, kill me.
Eclectic background. Right? When he was growing up, he grew up in Hawaii. He spent time in Pakistan. He writes in Dreams for My Father.
What's Donald Trump's background? The billionaire real estate developer? Like, what?
About his feelings of kinship in Kenya. And then his first big address as president of the United States, he goes to Cairo for the so-called apology tour.
Assalamu alaikum.
Where he's talking about the evils of American policy in the Middle East.
The relationship between Islam and the West includes centuries of coexistence and cooperation, but also conflict and religious wars. More recently, tension has been fed by colonialism that denied rights and opportunities to many Muslims, and a Cold War in which Muslim-majority countries were too often treated as proxies without regard to their own aspirations.
And people go, well, this doesn't seem like super, kind of homegrown. Now, I'm saying this as somebody...
to strengthen relationships with countries in the Middle East?
Who never bought into the birther crap and thought that it was horseshit from the beginning. But if you're asking me like where the sentiment comes from, I think it came much more from the ideology as opposed to the race. Now, again, is there a combo between background there? Sure. Can you make the argument that there was a racial component? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think that that was, the sort of predominant thing that drove it? I actually don't. I think that there was a desperate hope, frankly, by a lot of Republicans.
This is from 2018. Is that when this was broadcast? Pivot off of pivot off of pivot. Is he talking about me again, my hero?
I don't even know what the fuck to say. These motherfuckers are literally using Destiny's Community's clips because they couldn't find anything. They couldn't find anything recent of me saying anything that's even remotely advocating for violence or anything like that specifically. And I know they're looking. I know.
No, he's just
right-wing groups are currently.
Are you serious? This is what
desperately looking for anything that.
This is what it all comes down to. He's just an attention whore.
It matter, right?
Kill me, bro. This is what our online politics
and DGG
is.
Basically gave him all of the shit that is readily available out there. All this like false framing, all this out of context shit. But then those very same forces that these guys often collaborated with are now coming after Destiny as well because he can't fucking be normal ever. He always gets in his own goddamn way. At least the energy is spent not trying to kill you. Oh, there's plenty of energy against me too. Let's be real.
Like, when am I collaborating with Jack Posobiec, with Anna Kasparian, with Andrew Wilson? I'm constantly fighting with all these people, even Piers Morgan. He's such a baby bitch. But good, he should be. Oh, and even his chat. How is the Rick Scott shit not blowing up again? Keck W.
Do you think everything he said is covered by free speech? Yes, I do. I do.
He thinks Dan and his crusade equals you, and Dan has aligned himself to attack on Twitch. I'm not Dan.
Not the death threats against you, though. What do you mean? No, ultimately, I think like everything that Destiny is trying to say here is obviously very clearly.
Oh.
Everything that he's saying here is incisive deliberately. But what he's very clearly trying to say is that like
it's
Donald
so
Trump
hard.
needs to fucking lower the temperature.
Oh, he has to agree with me. This is killing
that's
him
what he's
inside.
trying to say.
Oh, no, that's what I'm trying to say? No, that's what I'm saying verbatim. I don't need you to translate for me, little bro. Don't worry.
It's ridiculous for liberals to cave and capitulate to demands of lowering the temperature when when the main figure in American politics, the goddamn president, is not doing so at all and is using this tragedy as an opportunity to fucking stamp out any sort of political dissent.
True.
Okay. Show this on stream so you take the unhinged hogs off your back. Yeah, okay, calm down. I don't care about this shit.
Because Jenk is a MAGA dick suck. And Hassan knows it.
Like, that's what he's implying.
Investigation has now established that he had been radically...
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Where did this guy go? Where did this guy go? What did Trump give him at that dinner? That must have been the best fucking Trump steak in the world. Destiny, why are you so harsh on what Trump says? Destiny, what about what you say? What about what you advocate for? What about what you disavow? What did Anna say to me? You have millions of followers on YouTube or whatever. What about the president of the United States? How is this? Ben Shapiro was complicit in this, of making it sound like the president's role didn't matter, right? When Obama says something in a private meeting in 2008, before he's even president, about gods and guns, you can take that to the bank, okay, and withdraw on that for the next 8 years. But when Donald Trump says things as president, well, you know, he's just one guy. But that's probably true-ish. I don't think, oh, but even you guys hate me on this. I don't think radical Islam was ever driving Saddam Hussein. But it's weird to call him a secularist. I just don't think that he was obviously like a dictator, and he loved, and he operate his military in his country